Diary of a Wimpy Kid is back, and Disney Plus just released the sequel to last year's film. Is Rodrick Rules, the animated movie, as good as the live action? What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. You may be wondering, where is my review for the first Diary of a Wimpy Kid animated film? And I didn't really feel like reviewing it. I didn't love the movie all that much, but I was still excited for the sequel because I really enjoy Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I read a lot of the books growing up, and actually, the live-action movies work for me. So how is this second animated movie, the righteous antics of angst-ridden, disaster-prone middle school student Greg Heffley, continue in Diary of a Wimpy Kid Rodrick Rules, focusing this time around his complicated relationship with his older brother Rodrick, a spiky-haired high school student. He is lazy, undisciplined, and spends way too much time practicing with his rock band. And this movie is rated PG for rude humor. Brady Noon is the voice of Greg. Hunter Dillon is the voice of Rodrick. And you actually have some really solid actors in there that round out the supporting cast. Ed Asner is in this movie. He plays Grandpa Heffley, and as we know, he passed away last year, so this is one of his final performances. I don't care if the movie's good or not. I was watching it and probably reviewing it just for the sake of Ed Asner. He's outstanding. So I don't want to spoil my Diary of a Wimpy Kid ranking that's coming out later today on this channel. If you want to subscribe, you'll get that from me. But I will say Rodrick Rules, the live-action movie, did pretty much everything I wanted it to do. It is, in my opinion, the definitive take on Diary of a Wimpy Kid outside of the books, just because it handled the character so well. It scaled back on some of the aggressiveness of the first, but you had that actor who played Rodrick who nailed Rodrick to a T and gave us really what we needed, the strain in the relationship, the fact that he does that older brother bullying, and you kind of understand why Greg is a little hesitant to go up against him, because there is that fear factor that any younger brother would have with an older brother like that. And the same exact story applies here. Greg and Rodrick, they're getting themselves into trouble. They're having to clean up before their parents come back home, and thus begins a bit of a different relationship between the two than what we've seen before. The difference in this movie, other than it just being kind of a Cliff Notes version of the story from the book and really the story from the other film, is the fact that Rodrick, played by Hunter Dillon, and not that Dillon does a bad job, he just doesn't nail the type of character that you need from this older brother that you're afraid to go up against. And as an audience, we're supposed to be afraid for Greg because we don't know what Rodrick is going to do to him if he goes up against he or his Rodrick Rules. And when Hunter Dillon is giving us this performance and voicing this character, I don't necessarily feel that this kid is scary or that he's not afraid to do what he wants to do. He's a guy who got in trouble in school, and all of the teachers, we see that in the first movie, that see Greg, they're like, oh no, there's the younger brother of Rodrick, and it's the same performance as the first film, but this time we're focused on how, scary Rodrick is supposed to be. He's the drummer in this rock band, but I don't really get that vibe from the voice that Hunter Dillon is giving us, and I wasn't feeling the moments when Rodrick was supposed to be that overbearing older brother and he's bullying his younger brother in a way. It just didn't feel that the movie nailed those moments as well as it could have or should have. And then you have all of these story points. I mean, so many things that we have to do, and we get each individual moment, but it just feels like we get it and it's over. We're moving on to the next big plot point. And that's not what you want in a movie like Rodrick Rules. You have to develop this ongoing relationship between these two brothers, have them work together. There needs to be a divide, and then obviously with the talent show at the end, get even more mad at each other and then try to work things out. And that relationship wasn't developed nearly as much as it should have been. And whenever Rodrick gets mad at Greg, you want to feel that anger. But what we get lackluster music playing in the background. Rodrick tells Greg, you wouldn't have the guts to go up against me, and I'm supposed to feel that moment. Instead, I'm just like, well, that's not very scary. And so that's how I felt all throughout this movie. And the idea of condensing this into an hour and 15 minutes, I guess, is good if you're not enjoying the film itself. But they devote long periods of time to moments that should have been quicker when they're racing to clean up the house before the parents get home. That takes longer than the more intimate conversations that we get between these two brothers and between the two brothers and the parents, and it just feels like they skip through all of these integral moments. And I look at the animation in both of these movies, and I love the fact that the art style is reminiscent to what we get in the books and the character designs, but the animation itself just doesn't have the quality that you require in something like this, especially when you look at Disney putting out these films. The quality of this animation just isn't there compared to other Disney Plus specific projects. That being said, this movie to me is a slight improvement on the first, not only because we get more time to tell a story that requires even more time than this, but also because there is this sense of humor in this film that does work every now and then, and you have that relationship between Greg and Rowley that does carry us through some moments that feel a bit too quick for its own good. It's also one that I think kids can watch, especially if they don't have a connection to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid's franchise, and they'll just have some fun with it. You know, it's not without its moments that will make you smile, and some of the things that we love about the Rodrick Rules story are present, and they do work, and I do think Brady Noon, again, does a great job as Greg. So, for the most part, if you're watching this with a connection to the Diary of a Wimpy Kid's franchise, I don't know if you're going to enjoy it as much as just a casual viewer, you know, sitting their kids down or sitting down with their kids to watch this animated movie on Disney Plus. Yeah, it's fine in that regard, but I expect more from Disney handling a franchise like this. I expect more attention, more quality writing. I wish the characters could have gotten more in terms of emotions and just the way that they interact with each other. And I use this word, it feels like a Cliff Notes version of the story that so many people love, and that to me is not enough, but that's coming from a guy who read these books years and years ago. Honestly, I forgot some elements of this story. I want to go back and watch the live action movie again. Hey, before I give you my score, if you're here and you enjoyed this video, the best way to support this channel is by dropping that like down below. And today's phrase of the day to comment and confuse other people who haven't made it to this point in the video: I'm not a wimp, I'm a jerk. That's a SpongeBob reference. Rodrick Rules improves upon some key misfires from the first film, but this still feels like a Cliff Notes version of one of the better stories from this franchise. Rodrick just isn't quite as intimidating as he needs to be. Again, I think young kids will enjoy this. It works for that audience, but for me, I'm going a 40%. Just knowing this story and what it could have been with this look to these characters, I maybe expected a little more, but I do think it is better than the first. Stay tuned, because later today I am ranking the Diary of a Wimpy Kid's franchise, all of the movies, and some more reviews for you guys. See you soon.